Jack DeManio will never forgive me. We're on air on time this morning. But here we are, Rouser Radio, emanating from Lewes in East Sussex in the UK. A tiny little town near to the south coast. But so bunged full of history, the rest of the world almost can't catch up. And so here we are with Buddy from Ben Sound, and our usual intro, except when the lovely Chinese lady gets in the way. And lovely Chinese she is, and I must say that all this spat with the Chinese over whether G5 should be done by, and I can never pronounce the name, Hawaii, or not, belies the fact that our two countries have had pretty good relations, actually. In New Haven, which is the coastal town nearest to Lewes on the south coast, and a busy port, and the ferries to France, to Dieppe, still emanate from there. Trains go there. All in all, it's quite an active community. But during the First World War, it had quite a large group of Chinese. The Chinese were not permitted by treaty to take sides in the First World War. So they sent Chinese workers to help the various Western countries and Western allies who were involved. And New Haven got a bunch to help out in the docks. And apparently we all got along extremely well. The Chinese community liked it here, we liked having them here, and all in all, it went off very well. And then, of course, we have Hong Kong, which we had for the longest time, and which we're even fighting for now when it's under pressure from the main Chinese government. And all in all, not a bad record of compliance or friendship with China. A couple more, if I could think of them, but basically the Chinese communities have served us very well. And the west coast of Canada, where I live, they certainly have flooded in and brought all sorts of money and made it a very prosperous place. Although I think some people are now saying that Mandarin should be added to the list of languages that people in British Columbia should speak. So perhaps that's overdoing it a little bit. Anyway, the Chinese, and during the war they gave us that lovely Chinese lady who sang Make Way, Oh Make Way, or as Frankie Lane then converted it to Rose, Rose, I Love You. Super stuff. I'm not going to play it immediately. I might play it throughout, depending on my mood this morning. I might just give you a taste of it because I think it's absolutely super. So we really have had a rather benign relationship with China for many years. We won't talk about some of the atrocities that took place during our occupation of parts of China, but nonetheless, that was empirical age when empire was, everybody was after an empire. Nowadays, we are not. Everybody else is. The Russians still lust after an empire. The Americans lust after an empire. China now lusts after an empire, and there are a few others in the running too. Not us. We've got a conscience. We've even got Prince Harry saying, dump the Commonwealth. Well, my goodness me. You know, those Commonwealth countries have found themselves tied via the British Empire to us to mutual benefit. And I hope that they don't listen to silly nonsense coming out of younger people. So, there we go. That's my feeling for this morning. But I have spent a lot of time in Russia. I like the Russians. I think they're lovely people. And in the main, their ladies, their women are very, very beautiful. And I must say that in the journalists that I've trained. There's some really, really stunning ladies. One particularly I'd like to mention, because you may say, I don't know any Russian ladies, but keep your eye open, because she is a global icon now. Sophie Shevardnadze, who I was privileged to teach, to broadcast. A beautiful lady, elegant, beautifully dressed, is an ambassador for not only Russia Today television, now known as RT, but also for the Russians themselves, even though she is in fact a Georgian. And her grandfather was Eduard Shevardnadze, and Eduard was one of the great reformers and put his career on the line. He went back to be president of Georgia, only to face a mini revolution, and Sophie describes how the family saw the mob coming in through the front door, and they all went out through the back into cars and to safety. So an exciting time. But Sophie is very elegant, very articulate, very talented, and a beautiful example of Russian motherhood, if I can put it that way. Although I don't think she's married, chaps. She hasn't told me if she is, because I could stop loving her if she was. No, she's a lovely, lovely lady. And many other young journalists who were females, and believe me, if anybody wants to talk about sexism, the Russians most certainly don't seem to practice that, because they have as many women in these various industries, including broadcasting, as they do men. And they are very good at it too. I have a number of female reporters that I trained, who I've stayed friends with. Some of them have come over here, and I actually had the privilege of going to Evensong and St. Paul's Cathedral with one family. And it was quite magnificent. It was quite by accident, actually. The father was a journalist, and he wanted to see the Cheshire Cheese in Fleet Street. So we wandered down Fleet Street, and I just casually pointed out that St. Paul's was at the top of Ludgate Hill, and it was where Diana had been married. And they said, "Oh, could we go up there, please?" And we happened to arrive just at the time of Evensong. So even though it was an accident, it was a wonderful accident, because if you've never been to St. Paul's, you should go. One of my friends, Shashan, posted some pictures on Facebook yesterday. He hadn't ever been before, and he was stunned by it. And he lives in London. But I said, Sean, you should go to Evensong. I'm lucky. I've been to Evensong at St. Paul's, and I've been to Evensong twice now at the cathedral, Westminster Cathedral, and that is also a stunning experience, and particularly since I was able to, courtesy of some friends that I have in the clergy there, sit in the choir stalls almost next to the choir. Quite an experience. So, if you really want musical I don't care what your musical tastes are. If you really want something to make the hairs stand on the back of your neck, go to either Westminster Cathedral or St. Paul's for Evensong. Fantastic. It's a fantastic experience. How did I get onto that? I was talking about my Russian friends. That's right. And the fact of the matter is that this morning the headlines on every newspaper are full of the fact that the Russians are trying to steal our vaccine secrets. Oh, naughty, naughty Russians. Naughty, naughty Russians. Trying to steal our vaccine secrets. And yet, the next paragraph is that we haven't managed to develop one yet. So, who's fooling who? But seriously, it would appear that all is not well in government circles. They're falling out as much over the treatment of coronavirus as they did about Brexit and how it should be handled. Some want a total easing of lockdown, and others are warning that the thing isn't over and we're going to have a spike. Even Tony Blair has got into the act this morning, saying that if he was actually in power in Britain at the moment, his great fear would be, if there is a second spike, that the economy is so fragile that we will be in serious, serious, serious trouble. We were living in conditions that we've never lived in before. So that's the one side, and Boris has also decided on hit forces, or hit teams, so that they will, where there are reports of coronavirus, they'll go in and they'll test immediately and lock down that part of the country if it's necessary. So we're it's far from over, and I think these people who are rushing to the beach and so on, there was already a spike as a result of that. Not a big one, but a spike nonetheless. And those people who are not willing to treat it with caution, believe me, I would if I was you. I was talking to a doctor, and he described what it's like to die from this. It's all very well to say so many hundreds died today, but nobody has bothered to say what it's like to die from this virus, and apparently it is very, very painful. And unhappily, because it is a virus, you have to die alone. Think of that. Next time you decide to have a hug and a kiss on a crowded beach, and then share a picnic basket with a stranger, just remember, it could be a horror story. Oh dear, what sort of morning is that? Anyway, we'll talk more about Russians in a moment. Let's what shall we try? A morning stroll. We tried that the other morning, I think. Everything You Wanted, Everglow. We did try Everglow, I think. Let's try. The Morning Dew we played. Yes, the Morning Stroll we played. Yeah. There's something called Fly High here. I don't think we've had a bit of that. Let's find out what Fly High is.